All right, everybody. So welcome back once again. I'm going differently this morning, so I'm not aware of all of the spots that don't work, but we can work with it. So basically, this morning, sometimes I'm like going through my day, and then stuff will like pass me, and then other times it will rest on me, and then I can't talk about it. So for those who just joined us and new to the channel, subscribe, like the video, all that lovely, great, beautiful stuff. I wanted to talk about some touchy subjects that sometimes our belief system determines whether or not we think they're true or whether or not they're not true. And I kind of like to say, is there truth to it? If there is, let's examine it. So we have terms floating around like soulmate, karmic partners, not as much as soulmate, karmic partners, and trauma bonds. Now, I was like, let's look into this a little more. I was listening to someone speak about when they met another person, like they knew instantly they were in love. Sometimes when we cannot explain a feeling or an emotion, we reference to what we've heard in times past and automatically assume it's good, or automatically assume that it is a sign. It has happened to me, okay? Let me just say, it has happened to me where you have this magnetic pull towards an individual and you're not sure why, and you reason in yourself that it is for a good reason. You know what I mean? You reason that it's for positive. And here's the kicker. Here's the rub. Like Philippe used to say. No, it's not always for a good reason. Now, we are drawn towards oftentimes something that is familiar. We're drawn towards something that we may need in our journey, but we don't know why. We're drawn towards experiences that we may not be sure about, but all we know is that we're feeling led to be in a certain direction, right? So this thought of soulmate, somebody that is a mate for not just your physical body, but for your soul, that you connect with, somebody who may feel familiar. It could be in a good way or in a bad way, right? It could be somebody who, that's where this karmic partner comes in, where we've created this energy around us based on our thoughts, feelings, our actions and emotions that resonate. And if they're bad or if they're good, whatever it is, it resonates with another individual, and we attract that person onto ourselves. For instance, the person who has been abused, or the person who is the abuser, you know what I'm saying, then attracts somebody who's going to abuse them. You understand? Sometime time before I said something of this nature and somebody got like really mad. Amuna, are you saying you attract your abuser? On a certain level, once we get past childhood, we kind of do, because we send out these messages to people in and around us that this is what you can do. This is what you can get away with me. And people see low self-esteem, even if they see it in the spirit. They feel it in your energy, and they see, oh, this person is not sure of their self. They see this person, I can take advantage of this person, either by their experience with you or just the energy, the vibration that we give off. So yes, to a certain degree, we do attract what some are saying is karmic partners. And we do form these trauma bonds that is this pulling energy, but it's not necessarily positive. Now, the trauma bond, as we spoke about before, is people, what they would say is Stockholm syndrome, but people who have similar experiences, whether it be in whatever traumatic experience. For instance, people can form trauma bonds because they experienced Vietnam, or some type of war. It doesn't necessarily have to be they were on the same tour of duty. They can trade. That's why they call it trading war stories, right? People can experience trauma bonds because they work at a toxic environment, right? So now they get to bond over over lunch or over tea, and they both or all work in these toxic environments, and so now they can trade stories about how their coworkers are the worst, or how their boss is the worst, or how they hate. These are bonds. Relationships doesn't always have to be intimate relationships. They can also be relationships, period. You know what I mean? We have relationships with all type of things. You have relationships with inanimate objects, and you have relationships with animate objects. Okay, so if we could demystify a bit of why and how we attract and we bond and we connect with people, then we can have a better handle on how to undo things that we may not like. Some people think it's just cutting off that particular person. You know, the New Testament tells you if your hand offends you, cut it off. You know what I mean? Or, you know what I mean? Or this stuff where people will go into, that's not what it means. But if you cut off something and you don't understand the nature of the thing, then it will just, it's like someone that has cancer, someone is sick. They may think, oh, just cutting off this thing is going to work. But if they have already been infected and the cancer cells is already metastasized and gone to different organs of the body, if you cut off one thing, it's still there. It didn't go anywhere. It actually multiplied and it manifested itself differently. It reproduced itself differently in different places. So I know a lot of people tend to come on after. So definitely, if you're coming on after, feel free to share your thoughts in the box below. So karmic partners, and people will be like, karma, karma is not in the Bible. Sowing, reaping is in the Bible, right? The principle, if we look at principle, people are like, why does she keep saying principle? Because the principle, the formula, is what makes the outcome. It is the equation by which the outcome is determined. And so if I'm in America and I speak English and I take flour and water and agitate it, it makes bread. If I'm in the Middle East and I call it something other than flour, but it's still flour, and I take water and I call it water something else, it still makes bread. And it might pop out and you call it lekum. It may pop out and you call it chala. It may pop out and you call it dabo. It may pop out and you call it, you know what I mean, injera. Wherever you go, all around the world, there is some form of bread, but the principle remains the same. If you take grain and you add water and you agitate it, you will get bread no matter what you call it. I think sometimes it's missing. We get hung up on the languages, and the reality is the language was dispersed, as we see in the Tower of Babel, and there's a confusion in that. And this is one of the impediments of humanity, is that then we want to argue about what we're calling it and not necessarily looking at the principle of what it is. You're going to call it different things because that's what it is. So if one person adds other things, just like some people add other things to their bread, some may add salt and some may add baking powder and some may add yogurt and they make it naan bread, or some may add fruit and some may add all of whatever they add in, sweet, savory, and they're adding all of these things, then it makes a different type of bread. But at its very core, at its very basis, it's bread. You know what I mean? Grain and water, or grain and liquid, makes bread. Yeah, we can argue. Let's argue. Y'all want to argue? I'm saying. So therefore, this idea of creating, it says whatever we sow, that we shall reap. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks, right? There is a thought of creating something and reaping the rewards or the effects or the consequences of the thing that we have created. That's universal principle. It's in a creation. And we reap in like kind. Something that's abominable or something that has been violated because it's going against the laws of nature. So fruit that they're messing around with, and some of the cross splicing of ligers and this like this, that's an abomination because it's violating the laws of nature. They are the apple seed. Please believe that I expect an apple in return. So this is the law of reciprocity of like kind. Whatever I give, that's what I'm gonna get. And if it's mixed signals, then I'm gonna get mixed signals. If they go ahead and splice an apple, and no, what did I see them splice one at a time in the supermarket? A plum, was it? Oh, it was like a plum and a peach or something like this. It was something that wasn't supposed to be together that they made together. So it brings up something questionable. You have to kind of wait and see what's going to come from it, because that doesn't belong together. Okay, and that's kind of how we sow our thoughts. It's like we sow righteous thoughts and wicked thoughts together, and we got to kind of wait and see what's going to come from it, because we mixed and mingled. You're not supposed to put two different seeds in the same hole, because that's mixing and mingle, right? Now I forgot with all my analogies. I went off course with my. Hold on. Let me think about it again. What was I making the analogy for? Oh, y'all gotta see with me. Did I take my vitamin this morning? What was I making the analogy for? Mix and mingle, likers. This really be happening to me sometimes. So I'll go back to karmic partners. Oh, right. Karmic. So they basically, those who say karma, the word is not there. Very well. The word is not there. Okay, what is there? Do we reap what we sow? Is it the proverb, like they say, every tub have to sit on its own bottom? Does every person have to account for their deeds and their actions? Okay, so if we create our storyline based on our deeds and our actions, then it is expected that we are going to attract other people who vibe with our storyline. All throughout Chronicles, all throughout the text, when it's going on looking at, and this person did what was right in the sight of the Creator, or this person walked in the footsteps of their fathers and they did what was wicked in the sight of the Creator. We see that repetitively over and over and over and over again. What is that saying to us? It's of the person who planted it, right? And then they manifested more of the same. In a story of, like, say, Samson and Delilah, there was a thought process of Samson that allowed a woman like Delilah to operate on the level that he would be attracted to. Even beyond the reasoning of his parents, he had a certain mindset that created for him an environment that would fulfill that mindset that he had. Right? So it's all throughout whatever we're looking for, whatever we're thinking, whatever behaviors we're manifesting, we are going to attract this karmic partner. So in essence, Delilah wasn't necessarily a soulmate. She was a karmic partner. The karma, the energy that he created, he attracted this type of individual. And some will say, no, it is not so. Well, let's see. Let's put any situation out there that you can go biblical, you can go in the world, and then we'll see, are these people soulmates? Are they attracted to one another? Because a wicked woman is a reward for a wicked man, right? The people like to give that proverb. Is the person a trauma bond? Now, here's an example of a trauma bond in the text, right? The thought, if the man goes out to war, if this man goes out to war and he decimates the city, he murks the people in the city, okay, it is given provision that he can take some damsel that he sees and brings her back onto himself to wife her, okay. If he decimates the city, the thought is that her parents, her family, her brothers, her sisters, people who she would be related to are gone. And therefore, he ain't asked permission for her. And then now he has the right to cut her fingernails and, give her a fade, you know what I mean? And take her onto himself. Chances are she's either going to form a trauma bond with him because they got together based on a traumatic experience. And a lot of people go to this particular scripture to give credence to behavior. But when you think about what it's actually giving you permission to do. You want someone in your home who you are responsible for taking the lives of all that they love. And thinking that as we're learning about, it doesn't start with you, as we're learning about epigenetics, as we're learning about, what do we think in that allowance are you going to bring back onto yourself as a male when you sow your seed in ground of a woman whose family, whose life, whose culture you have decimated? We have a modern day example. We have the modern example in modern day, slavery a couple of 100 years ago, where the colonizer decimated your culture, decimated your relationships, your connection, everything, and in many cases then impregnated the woman with his seed. What do we think would come? Did anything necessarily good come about because of this? Was it a positive thing? Was it something that you can definitely trust this person because you have planted seed there? Question. That's a trauma bond. So when some people say, well, why does the black woman like the white man so much? It's called a trauma bond. In this traumatic experience, you can be bonded to people. And sometimes the trauma bonds people more than positive energy. More than positive energy. So like I said before, the people who spent jail time together, they cellie, they may be more connected to their cellie than they are people who they grew up in school with. Or if they used to jump people together, or if they used to do drugs together, or if they used to be on the block together, they may be ride or die for one another more than their family members or more than the people who are looking out for them. And you're like, well, why does this person go to bat for this individual? And this individual doesn't mean them any good. But here I am trying to do all of this good and niceness for them. It's called trauma bonds. So the more we educate ourselves on the different ways that people could be connected or bonded with one another, it kind of alleviates the confusion. And we get to assess, is this a trauma bond? Is this a quote soulmate? Is this a karmic experience that the person has to go through this? You may see some people who, when you meet them, you're like, oh, poor thing. Oh. It goes out sometimes. I run into the store, y'all, and they'll tell you their story, and you'll be like, oh, they're such a nice person. I can't believe this woman is so wicked. I can't believe she would do this to you, or the man is so wicked. Da, 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 da. And you feel sorry for people, right? But then if you dress back and kind of let them go through, if they're willing to, take me back before this moment, before this relationship, before this interaction, take me back to, some of the things that was happening. Mr. Trumpman. Deliveries, right? And if they take you back, you get to start getting some understanding. But because sometimes when people, especially in relationships, when there are foremost things that are needing, then we kind of don't hear that part. Even if it's the red flag, we overlook that part because we need this right now. So when we get this, or we get in the situation, we get in the circumstance, when we get it, now we got time. And we were like, whoa, I never noticed that before. Or I never realized that before. That time it was there the whole time. But we didn't have, it's like right now, people are in quarantine. They say a lot of divorces is happening. A lot of families are breaking up. A lot of relationships are disintegrating. Because now, when you have to just be going back and forth, in and out the house, you're not really connecting the way you are now. You just got nothing but time. They working from home. You working from home. You see them every day. You start looking at them like, I'm just realizing, you know what I mean? The sound of your voice is annoying. Or you get in this lust bubble, as some people would say, and there are chemicals that's released that induces this lust state of being. But when it subsides and you don't have the true genuine connection, you begin to, it's like adhering something to the wall, right? Mandarin, come down. and it's not secure enough. It's not secured. Why it got to rain as soon as I pull up to the spot? What are something like this and I don't have no umbrella? I don't have any umbrella, people. And as soon as I pull up, it's starting to rain. So yeah. We'll talk about this a little bit more. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave it in the box below. If you, again, like I said, look the condition that you were in mentally, emotionally when you met. Was it after? Was it a rebound? Was it when you were lonely? When it was it when you were stressed? And then you look at what the person offered for you at that time, and then you can begin to assess, well, what kind of bond is this? What, and we talk about bond. You have glue, right? You have all type of glue. You have all type of tape. You have temporary tape, you have permanent tape, you have gorilla glue, you got crazy glue. So you have to look at, even in the physical natural world, there are all these different type of glues or bonds or tapes that for different things. You're going to use a different thing for to hang something on the wall than you are going to do to tape together on a school project. You understand? Different strengths and all this stuff like that. So that's the same thing, how our souls interact with one another. But I'm going to run into the store now because I need to get to the shizop so we could get ready to be open. So with that said, everybody, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for riding with me. Let me see if you guys have anything to say. You guys are pretty quiet today. All right, so we'll talk again. All right.